Imagine spending your entire life just meditating.
Right, like decades of your life.
Exactly. You sacrifice everything. You rigorously train your mind and your body, seeking that absolute ultimate state of spiritual enlightenment. And when you finally achieve that legendary peak,
The literal finish line.
yeah, but you are utterly terrified to ever do it again.
I mean, that reaction completely shatters the modern, commercialized narrative we have built around mindfulness
Oh, completely.
because we are constantly sold this idea that heightened spiritual awareness is simply, a tool for extreme comfort, like a cozy blanket.
That is the perfect way to phrase it. We treat meditation like a spa treatment for the brain. But welcome to today's deep dive, where our core mission is to just tear down those pop culture cliches.
We are definitely moving far past the idea of using a breathing app for 5 minutes to lower your blood pressure before a stressful Zoom meeting.
Right. Today, we are unpacking the elusive, incredibly intense, and frankly misunderstood concept of samadhi.
Which is often translated as enlightenment or cosmic consciousness or nirvana.
Exactly. And our guide for this journey is this deeply fascinating source. We are analyzing a comprehensive lecture transcript from Osman.
Also known as the Blind Muslim Yogi.
Yes, exactly. He's an advanced yoga and meditation teacher with over 50 years of rigorous practice.
And Osman's background, I mean, it adds this vital layer of gravity to the text because he is not just some philosopher sitting isolated on a mountaintop. He is a master-level bioenergy healer.
Right, who specializes in critical care and terminal illness recovery.
Yeah, he works literally in the trenches of human suffering. He uses telepathic healing capabilities that utilize quantum and entanglement principles.
Which sounds wild, but he has this 90% success rate.
But he actually notes that the 90% success rate is not extraordinary.
Wait, really? How is that not extraordinary?
Well, he says people are just unaware of this type of shielding. It's actually normal if anyone follows his protocol because their natural energy improves, which boosts their immunity naturally.
Oh, I see. So the natural spirituality and yoga protocols basically replenish the lost energy that our modern lifestyles completely deplete.
Exactly. And you can find his work at yogawellness786.com, where he actually provides a free 5-minute yoga and meditation program to help people start building that foundational energy.
And we should explicitly remind you, the
Yeah.
listener, to go check out that free 5-minute program. It's a great starting point.
But there is a crucial, non-negotiable disclaimer he places at the very front of his teachings.
I noticed that immediately, and I respect it immensely.
Mm.
Osman is so explicit that his natural-based therapies and energy protocols are strictly complementary.
Right, they are not a replacement for medical care.
Exactly. They're designed to enhance the body's natural energetic immunity, not to act as a standalone replacement for licensed medical treatment.
Right, if you have a medical condition, you go to a qualified medical professional. He views his work as working in tandem with modern medicine.
Grounding the conversation in that kind of clinical pragmatism just makes his subsequent claims about spiritual evolution carry significantly more weight.
Oh, for sure. He approaches the esoteric with a genuinely scientific mind. In fact, he emphasizes that his mission is to encourage a scientific approach to life by simplifying ancient methodologies.
And there's an additional detail about Osman that makes his descriptions of navigating these advanced energetic states absolutely profound.
Right, his eyesight.
Yeah. Since May 2023, Osman has been permanently blind.
Which is just an incredible detail when you read the text.
When I read that, it completely reframed how I processed his descriptions of the universe.
Because when he talks about seeing the energetic fields of mountains,
Yes, or the atomic structures of the wind, he is utilizing the visual memory he possessed prior to 2023 to articulate an experience that transcends physical eyesight entirely.
he is describing a reality that literally doesn't require optical nerves to perceive.
Exactly. And that brings us to the true hook of his lecture. Osman casually mentions that he has personally attained the state of samadhi on 5 separate occasions.
Starting all the way back when he was 19 years old.
19. But having achieved what millions of seekers spend lifetimes chasing, he openly admits he is afraid to enter that state again.
Unless he undergoes extreme, rigorous preparation.
Right. Fear is like the last emotion we associate with nirvana.
But Osman is peeling back the curtain on the shocking physical toll this state extracts from the human biological system.
So today, we are going to chart the architecture of these advanced states of consciousness.
We're going to examine the biological mechanisms that make them so dangerous to an unprepared nervous system.
And we are going to dive into a staggering philosophical dilemma about what actually happens to your sense of self when you literally merge with the fabric of the universe.
So let's start by dismantling a massive misconception that I think almost everyone holds.
Oh, the finish line concept.
Yeah. We tend to view enlightenment as the finish line. You cross the tape, the universe hands you a gold medal, and you spend the rest of eternity floating in a state of perfect knowing.
But Osman completely upends that. He clarifies that reaching samadhi is actually just the very first major goalpost.
Which is so humbling.
Yeah.
To understand the scale of what he is proposing, we have to look at the esoteric anatomy of the human body.
Specifically the energy centers, right? The chakras.
Exactly. Osman maps out a very precise geography here. A massive portion of advanced meditators will spend their entire lives trying to reach the maturation of the 6th level.
That correlates to the pineal gland, right? Or the third eye region in the center of the brain.
Right, and opening that center is treated as a monumental achievement in spiritual circles.
I always assumed that was the gateway to the cosmos. I mean, it's the third eye.
Right, but Osman pulls the rug out and points out that the 6th level is still fundamentally anchored in the material world.
Wow, so it's still biology.
It is still governed by physical biology. It relies on the neurochemistry of the brain to process the experience.
It's essentially just the lobby of the building.
Exactly. The actual threshold of samadhi doesn't begin until the 7th level.
The Sahasrara chakra.
Right, which is positioned energetically slightly above the physical crown of the head.
So it's not even inside the physical body anymore.
Exactly. This is the point where the practitioner transcends the physical hardware of the brain entirely.
And this is where the sheer unfathomable scale of Osman's framework just shatters human comprehension.
Because arriving at the 7th level is just stepping up to the starting line.
Right, there's an 8th level above the crown.
And beyond that, he states there are reputed to be 99 distinct levels of further cosmic advancement.
Okay, let's unpack this. I have to stop and unpack the math on this because my brain is actively resisting it.
It's a lot to take in.
It's like spending your entire life, every single waking moment, training to climb Mount Everest. You sacrifice your relationships, your comfort, your body.
You give up everything.
Right. And you finally drag yourself to the freezing summit, gasping for oxygen, and you look up to celebrate it.
Only to realize the summit is just the very bottom step of a staircase that extends deep into outer space.
Yes. But here's the part where I want to offer some genuine pushback.
Okay, let's hear it.
I am struggling with the timeline Osman lays out. He claims that traversing each of those subsequent 99 levels takes millions and millions of years.
Right.
I have to ask, doesn't a timeline of millions of years sound suspiciously like a convenient excuse for a spiritual teacher?
How do you mean?
Like, how do we know this isn't just a guru moving the goalposts so far away that nobody can ever question why they haven't reached the end?
Okay, that kind of skepticism is incredibly valuable. And it is exactly how a modern mind should approach claims of the esoteric.
Right, we have to question it.
But looking closely at Osman's logic, he isn't moving the goalposts to evade scrutiny.
Okay.
He is actually attempting to fundamentally break the practitioner's biological conditioning.
Oh, I see.
Because human beings are inextricably bound by the concept of a biological lifespan. We think in terms of decades.
We want the weekend retreat goal.
Exactly. We want the 10-step program to spiritual mastery by next Tuesday.
We want to optimize it.
Right. If a teacher says you can achieve ultimate cosmic truth in 10 years, the ego immediately turns that into a competitive sport.
Oh, we would absolutely try to optimize it. We would biohack our way to enlightenment in 8 years just to beat the average.
Precisely the problem. By introducing a timescale of millions of years, Osman is forcing an immediate visceral humility.
It reframes the whole thing.
He is framing spiritual growth as an eternal, cosmic evolution that completely decentralizes the human lifespan.
It ceases to be about finishing a race in this current physical body.
Exactly. It becomes about participating in a process that is infinitely larger than your current isolated existence. It kills the ego's desire for a quick victory.
Thinking about it that way actually changes the emotional texture of the practice.
It really does.
For you listening right now, consider how often you feel frustrated that you can't quiet your mind during a basic meditation.
Oh, constantly.
Right. You sit down, close your eyes, and 5 seconds later, you are furiously planning your grocery list.
Or replaying an argument from 3 years ago in the shower.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then you get mad at yourself for failing. But if the actual roadmap to understanding the universe is measured in millions of years, it instantly removes that localized pressure.
You are not behind schedule.
Right. The schedule is just infinitely longer and grander than you realize.
It replaces anxiety with awe.
I love that.
And because those upper 99 levels involve timescales and dimensional realities that are entirely beyond the articulable limits of the human brain.
Because we can't even fathom a million years.
Exactly. So Osman prudently focuses his lecture on the two types of samadhi that human beings actually can currently account for.
The stages that are within the reach of documented reality.
Right.
So the first of those accessible stages is called Savikalpi Samadhi.
And Savikalpi Samadhi is defined in the ancient yogic literature by a highly specific Sanskrit compound word, Satchidananda.
Satchidananda.
Right. It's constructed from three distinct concepts, Sat, Chit, and Ananda.
Okay, let's break those down.
Decoding these three words is the only way to understand the mechanics of what the practitioner is actually enduring in this state.
Well, I am looking at the breakdown of Satchidananda right now, and the first word, Sat, translates to truth.
Right.
But given the context Osman provides, he clearly isn't talking about truth in the sense of a factual statement like water is wet.
No, not at all.
It sounds more like encountering the fundamental physics of reality. He's talking about touching the bedrock.
He is describing the realization of the absolute, unchanging fabric of existence.
Wow.
In our normal waking state, we experience reality through a highly filtered, relativistic lens.
Because our brains have to filter out massive amounts of sensory and energetic data just to keep us functional.
Right, otherwise we'd go crazy. Sat is the sudden, uncompromising removal of those filters.
You are just hit with the raw data of the universe.
Exactly. Which leads directly into the second word, Chit, translating to consciousness.
But Osman draws a sharp, almost aggressive line between what we think of as consciousness and what Chit actually is.
Because normally, I sit here and I think, I am my physical body.
Right. I am my career, my memories, the sound of my voice.
But Osman defines that as illusory consciousness.
An illusion.
It is a necessary survival mechanism for a biological organism, but it is fundamentally a hallucination.
So what is Chit then?
Chit is the state where that illusion evaporates entirely. You no longer perceive yourself as a localized mind trapped inside a meat suit.
And the way Osman describes the consequence of this is where ancient mysticism suddenly mirrors modern quantum physics.
Yes, the quantum connection here is fascinating.
He says that in this state, you actively perceive the energetic existence of everything around you.
And he is incredibly literal about this.
Right. He says you look at an ocean, a mountain, or the wind, and you don't just see the macroscopic object.
You see their multiple frequencies.
You perceive the atomic and energetic forces, the neutrons, the electrons, the raw quantum vibration that are actively holding that mountain together.
What's fascinating here is this is a vital moment to connect the dots between disciplines.
Okay, let's connect them.
When a quantum physicist looks at a mountain, they know intellectually that it is not a solid object.
Right. It is a massive swirling cloud of subatomic particles.
Held together by strong and weak nuclear forces consisting of 99.9% empty space.
Right, but the physicist knows this through mathematics and instrumentation.
Exactly. What Osman is claiming is that in Savikalpi Samadhi, the practitioner actually experiences this reality directly.
The nervous system becomes the instrument.
Yes, and because you are suddenly perceiving the actual vibrating atomic energy of that mountain, Osman claims you can literally communicate with it.
See, when I first read that, my immediate reaction was, okay, now we are veering into fairy tales.
Talking to rocks.
Exactly. But when you reframe it through that quantum lens, he isn't talking about having a verbal chat with a rock.
No, it's not a conversation.
He is talking about a localized field of consciousness, the meditator interacting through quantum entanglement with the fundamental energetic motion that gives that mountain its form.
The observer and the observed are suddenly speaking the exact same energetic language.
It is an exchange of information at the subatomic level.
But the biological cost of processing that much information, that brings us to the third word.
And this is the element that genuinely shocked me.
Ananda.
Ananda. It translates to bliss.
And this is where the cultural translation completely fails us.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Because when an American hears the word bliss, we picture ultimate relaxation.
Right, lying in a hammock.
Lying in a hammock in Hawaii on a perfect 70-degree day with 0 emails in our inbox.
A passive, soft emotion.
But Osman's description of Ananda is anything but soft.
It is violent in its intensity.
He describes a bliss so exponentially high, so incredibly concentrated, that if a normal, unprepared person were somehow forced to feel it for even 1 or 2 seconds,
Their physical nervous system would interpret it as absolute agony.
it would feel as if every single cell in their body was simultaneously exploding.
It is an unbearable extreme of sensory input.
It is a shocking reality check.
Yeah.
In the source material, Osman references Paramahansa Yogananda, the author of the legendary autobiography of a yogi.
Right, a foundational text.
Yogananda tried to articulate this sensation, and he compared it to having 1 billion volts of energy suddenly coursing through a fragile physical body.
1 billion volts.
And this completely contextualizes Osman's own vulnerability when he says he's afraid to enter samadhi again without extreme preparation.
He isn't being metaphorical.
No, he is talking about a very real fear of biological destruction.
It is essentially a biological short circuit. Osman actually shares an anecdote about Yogananda's own teacher to illustrate the physiological extremes we are dealing with here.
Oh, the sleep story.
Yes. The teacher apparently slipped into samadhi while he was resting. His physical body responded by completely shutting down its autonomic functions.
He stopped breathing.
His heartbeat ceased entirely.
So to any external observer, he was clinically dead.
Exactly. But when Yogananda touched his teacher's physical form, the body was literally vibrating with a terrifying amount of internal energy.
Yogananda described it as practically being able to electrocute someone who touched him.
I want to dig into the mechanics of that because we always treat meditation as a purely mental exercise.
But this describes an extreme physical endurance event.
Right. How is it even theoretically possible for a biological organism to survive without a heartbeat while radiating that much energy?
Well, the theories behind this bridge, ancient esoteric anatomy and modern physiology.
Right. From a biological standpoint, we are talking about a conscious manipulation of the parasympathetic nervous system so extreme that the body requires almost zero oxygen,
Potentially entering a state of localized cellular preservation.
slowing the metabolic rate to a near halt.
But esoterically, Osman would point to the nadis, the thousands of invisible energy channels that map the human body.
It's like trying to plug a massive nuclear power plant directly into the wiring of a 1950s suburban house.
Right. If you just flip the switch, the wires don't merely fail, they instantly incinerate.
The infrastructure cannot handle the load.
That is the perfect analogy for why true enlightenment requires decades of grueling physical and mental preparation.
It's not just about learning to focus your thoughts.
The actual cellular structure, the myelin sheaths of the nervous system, and the energetic pathways must be systematically upgraded.
You are slowly building industrial-grade transmission lines inside your own body.
So that when those 1 billion volts of Ananda hit, your biological hardware doesn't catch fire.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's imagine you have done the decades of work.
You put in the 50 years.
Right, you have upgraded the wiring. You enter Savikalpi Samadhi. You have 1 billion volts of cosmic truth running through your veins. Your heart is stopped, and you are perceiving the atomic structure of the wind.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
My question is, are you completely gone? Has the human being been erased, leaving only a lightning rod behind?
And that question defines the absolute boundary of Savikalpi Samadhi.
So what's the answer?
The answer is no. Even amidst that incomprehensible intensity, the practitioner maintains a tether to their individual identity.
You still possess the intrinsic knowledge of I.
Exactly. You know who you are, you know your history, and you maintain a distinction between yourself and the mountain you are observing.
You are experiencing the entire universe at maximum volume, but the observer still exists.
Right.
But, and here's where it gets really interesting, maintaining that identity fundamentally creates a ceiling.
Because if you are still observing the universe, you are fundamentally separated from it.
There is still a you and an it.
Exactly. To cross into the next tier of samadhi, the observer has to die.
Which brings us to the second accessible state, Nirvikalpi Samadhi.
This is the threshold where the training wheels of the human ego come off entirely.
The defining characteristic of Nirvikalpi is the absolute, uncompromising obliteration of the individual self.
You are no longer conscious of your body as a vessel.
You have no awareness of being a person sitting in a room meditating.
The I vanishes.
But it's not a void.
No.
You don't just become nothing. Instead, you become conscious of everything that exists, but you experience it as if it is you.
You are the trees, the furniture, the ocean currents, the planets, the dying stars.
But what makes Osman's description so gripping is that he doesn't just paint this as a beautiful, expansive feeling of oneness.
No, it's very high.
He zeroes in on a visceral, almost terrifying mechanism of absolute empathy.
It is an empathy engine running without any filters.
He provides incredibly raw examples to make us grasp this.
Because the boundary between you and the other no longer exists.
The sensory input of the entire world becomes your own nervous system.
He says if someone gets slapped across the face in another country, you physically feel the sting of the slap.
If someone is shot, you feel the kinetic impact and the tearing of the bullet.
You are simultaneously processing the raw experiences, the agonizing suffering, and the ecstatic joys of all 8.4 billion human beings on Earth at once.
If a tree is chopped down in a forest, you process the biochemical distress signals of that tree as your own physical pain.
I want you to pause and deeply consider the processing power required for a single node of consciousness to endure that.
It's unfathomable.
Neurologically, we have mirror neurons that allow us to feel a fraction of empathy when we see someone cry.
But nirvikalpi samadhi is the activation of a cosmic mirror neuron system.
And the philosophical implications of this are just staggering.
Right, because if you literally feel the pain of every living organism as your own immediate suffering, how does that alter the fundamental human concept of morality?
It renders our entire system of morality completely obsolete.
Because we build laws, religions, and ethical frameworks to govern how we treat the other.
Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill.
But in this state, there is no other. You wouldn't need a law telling you not to harm someone, because harming another person would be the exact equivalent of stabbing yourself in the leg.
Compassion isn't a moral choice anymore. It is basic self-preservation.
It is a terrifyingly beautiful synthesis.
But there is a massive existential danger hidden inside this state of total merger.
Oh, the warning.
Yes. Osman highlights this danger by bringing in the teachings of Sivaya Subramanya Swami.
The late founder of the Saiva Siddhanta Church in Hawaii.
Right, who is one of Osman's highly influential teachers.
And what did he warn?
Subramanya Swami warned that while the state beyond nirvikalpi is entirely indescribable by human language,
the ultimate goal of the practitioner is not to achieve this total universal merger and just stay there forever.
that feels deeply counterintuitive.
I know. If you have finally escaped the suffering and isolation of the human ego, why would you ever leave?
But the mastery, according to these traditions, isn't in escaping.
The mastery is going into the ultimate void, surviving the dissolution of your identity, and coming back.
The true practice is entering the state, not getting lost in the bliss, and successfully returning to a normal baseline human consciousness.
Navigating back from the loss of the self requires an immense, almost unimaginable amount of spiritual tethering.
If you lose the breadcrumb trail back to your localized identity,
The human hardware sitting in the room simply expires.
it makes me think of deep-sea diving.
Or an astronaut executing a spacewalk.
Yes, exactly.
You don't put on the suit and open the airlock just to unclip your harness and drift out into the black abyss forever.
That's not mastery, that's suicide.
The actual mastery, the incredible skill of the astronaut, is tethering yourself securely to the ship.
You go out, you witness that profound, mind-altering, alien perspective of the Earth from the void.
And then you pull yourself back along the tether to the cramped, imperfect capsule so you bring that knowledge back to humanity.
But I have to play devil's advocate here.
Okay, lay it on me.
If nirvikalpi samadhi is truly a state of perfect unity, if you are one with the cosmos and free from all human anxiety, why bother pulling the tether?
Why come back to a world where you have to pay taxes, get sick, and experience heartbreak?
Exactly. That exact question is the catalyst for one of the oldest, most intense, and fiercely debated theological dilemmas in human history.
What is the ultimate nature of the soul when it merges with the infinite?
Do you become God?
Do you realize there is no God?
Or is it something else entirely?
Osman really gets into the philosophical weeds on this. He maps out the two massive diverging philosophies that arise from masters who have survived this state and return to talk about it.
On one side of the spectrum, you have the Buddhist perspective.
Rooted in the concept of anatta, or non-self.
Right. Osman notes that many practitioners who reach this total merger return and claim that there is no supreme creator God.
Now, he is careful to clarify the historical nuance here.
The Buddha himself didn't necessarily run around declaring God does not exist.
Rather, the Buddha stated that in his profound explorations of consciousness, he never experienced a creator God.
He only experienced higher, increasingly refined levels of awareness.
Culminating in the ultimate perfection and subsequent dissolution of the self.
So in that framework, The universe is an endless evolution of self-perfection without a centralized deity.
But across the aisle, you have the other major pillar of Eastern philosophy, heavily rooted in traditions like Advaita Vedanta.
This is the I am God perspective.
Right. These schools of thought argue that because the practitioner's identity completely dissolves,
And they merge seamlessly with every atom and consciousness in the universe.
the only logical conclusion is that they have merged with the Creator,
Or, taken to its absolute extreme, they realize that they are God.
and always were, merely playing a game of cosmic hide-and-seek with themselves.
And this is where Osman steps into the arena with a counterargument that is so wildly practical, so rooted in basic logic, that it completely disrupts the debate.
And I want to be very clear to everyone listening, we are absolutely not taking sides here.
Oh, not at all. We aren't endorsing the Buddhist view, the Vedanta view, or Osman's view.
We're objectively analyzing Osman's fascinating intellectual exercise.
Because he approaches this massive ethereal theology with the cold, hard logic of a mechanic looking at a broken engine.
Exactly. Osman's pushback against the I am God conclusion is entirely rooted in the law of causality.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, he looks at the practitioner who returns from Samadhi claiming to be the supreme creator.
And he asks a devastatingly simple question.
If you are the ultimate perfect God, and you just spent 40 years sitting in a cave, meditating and starving to perfect yourself so you could finally realize you are God.
How did you manage to get so incredibly lost in the first place?
Yes, it's a brilliant paradox.
Why would the omniscient creator of the cosmos completely forget its own identity?
How did the ultimate God descend into a lower, heavier dimension, become trapped inside a fragile biological body?
Get conditioned by trauma and society,
Completely forget its own majesty.
and have to struggle through decades of grueling yoga just to remember what it is.
Osman points out the inherent contradiction of a supreme being bound by its own creation.
He says, if a person returns from samadhi and claims to be God, but they cannot snap their fingers and instantly materialize $1 billion,
Or they cannot instantly cure the arthritis in their own knees.
what functional kind of God is that?
Can the ultimate architect of reality truly become conditioned, trapped, and victimized by the very material world it designed?
Using strict logic, Osman concludes that it cannot.
He profoundly respects the practitioners of those other philosophies.
But from his pragmatic standpoint as a healer, dealing with the dense, heavy reality of the human body, the I am God math simply doesn't add up.
So if you aren't God, but you just merged with the infinite fabric of the universe, what actually happened?
Osman suggests a brilliant alternative framework.
He proposes that temporarily merging your consciousness with a higher, vastly more expansive dimension does not mean you are the creator of that dimension.
It's a vital distinction.
It is the difference between exploring a magnificent, sprawling mansion and claiming that you built it.
In Nirvikalpi Samadhi, your localized consciousness merged with the mansion.
You lost your specific identity within the vastness of that architecture.
You felt every room, you felt the foundation, you felt the roof.
But you are still, fundamentally, a visitor.
You are an explorer who was granted access to the master control room, but you are not the architect who poured the concrete.
And exploring this idea of being a temporary visitor brings us to a philosophical point that absolutely stopped me in my tracks.
It loops perfectly back to the question I asked earlier, why come back?
If you are swimming in the ocean of universal bliss, why pull the tether and return to the cramped capsule of a human body?
Osman points out a belief held by certain esoteric schools.
That highly elevated entities who merge into this cosmic unified state for millions of years,
Eventually get tired of it.
they experience the fatigue of infinite unity. They get tired of being everything.
Yes, they eventually have to descend.
They feel a compulsion to return to a localized, restricted, individual identity.
Why? Because, and this is the core shattering insight of this entire deep dive, you cannot give expression to yourself if you have lost yourself.
Individuality, with all of its painful limits, is the absolute prerequisite for expression.
If you are the entire ocean, you cannot experience the joy of swimming.
You can't act, you can't create art, you can't overcome a challenge.
And you cannot experience the act of loving a specific entity if you are already dissolved into the whole.
It is the most profound, unexpected defense of the human ego I have ever encountered.
Right, because in almost all spiritual and self-help literature, the ego is the ultimate villain.
We are constantly instructed to destroy the ego, to starve the self, to transcend our boundaries.
But Osman is suggesting that even the most highly elevated cosmic beings After luxuriating in millions of years of perfect, unbothered, pain-free unity, actively and intentionally choose to return to being an individual.
They willingly put the heavy armor of the ego back on because they want their boundaries back.
They crave the friction of existence so they can express themselves.
I want you to really let that sink in. Think about your life right now.
Think about your daily struggles, your specific identity, your weird quirks, your anxieties.
Your personal history, the heartbreak you've endured.
We spend so much of our lives trying to escape ourselves.
We constantly look for an exit door from our own minds.
But if these teachings are right, if highly elevated beings spend millions of years in cosmic perfection,
Only to intentionally seek out a limited, painful, individual identity just so they can express themselves.
it completely reframes your everyday human existence.
Your messy individuality isn't a trap you need to escape.
It is a profound, highly coveted, deeply advanced tool for universal expression.
You are experiencing the exact friction the universe craves.
It makes the absolute most mundane moments of a Tuesday morning feel incredibly sacred.
The frustration of being stuck in traffic.
The joy of a good cup of coffee.
The grief of losing a friend.
These are the specific, localized expressions that a unified cosmos cannot experience without you.
It really does shift the paradigm.
We have covered an absolute mountain of terrain today.
We started with the sheer, terrifying physical shock of Sabikalpi Samadhi.
Confronting the reality that touching true enlightenment might feel like 1,000,000,000 volts of raw cosmic truth tearing through a nervous system.
We learned that the body literally has to be biologically rewired over decades just to survive the influx of that energy.
And remember, Osman's 50 years of advanced practice just to manage these energies.
Exactly. And then we pushed into the terrifying, beautiful empathy engine of Nirvikalpi Samadhi.
Where the illusion of isolation dissolves and you process the pain, the joy, and the biological reality of 8.4 billion people as your own immediate experience.
And we navigated the intense logical debate of what surviving that merger actually means.
We explored the paradox of causality, questioning whether touching the infinite makes you God.
Or whether it simply makes you a deeply privileged temporary visitor in a higher dimensional architecture who eventually, inevitably, needs to return to the beautiful limits of themselves.
Exactly. It is an overwhelming amount of conceptual weight to process, especially when you realize the roadmap Osman is laying out spans millions of years of evolution.
As we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, building directly on this idea of the master's return.
Okay, let's hear it.
If the ultimate eventual goal of the most advanced spiritual beings in existence is to eventually pull themselves back from the boundless bliss of cosmic unity,
Just so they can have the privilege of an individual identity again.
does that mean the messy, isolated, painfully finite human life you are living right now, with all its flaws, its broken hearts, and its murky uncertainties, is actually the most coveted experience in the universe?
That is something truly profound to sit with the next time you feel overwhelmed by simply being human. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the extraordinary teachings of Osman.
Keep questioning the fabric of your reality.
Keep exploring the radical limits of your own empathy, and we will catch you next time.